Hello, everyone. This is Sweet Lou on the campus of Lafayette Jeff High School with another edition of Lafayette Living Legends. I'm sitting beside legendary coach Jan Connor. Jan, I appreciate your time being here. And how's things going? You've been out of coaching for a couple of years. What are you doing? You surely still got yourself involved in basketball.
Well, not as much as I thought I might, but this legend stuff makes you sound really old. I just got done doing a basketball camp, helping with a basketball camp at our church. In Otterburn, we have a new church, Methodist Church, and United Methodist Church, sorry. And it's a program called Upwards, and it's a nationwide program that is put on, and we have soccer, and we're going to have volleyball and cheerleading, but we had basketball for boys and girls in kindergarten through 6th grade. And we thought we'd have, 20, 30 kids. And from a little town, we had like 70, and it was just a blast. We just had a ball. And coaching little kids has never been one of my favorite things to do, but, it was a great time.
And you're a graduate of Benton Central High School, and then you went on and coached there and had quite success there for a while. You were in the state finals, and, of course, I remember those days watching on television. Can you talk a little bit about those days at Benton Central when things were going very successful, and, of course, now the times have changed a little bit, and what it was like to have such crowds at your games?
Well, we always said that girls basketball, if you notice at Purdue, we have what we call the Geritol crowd. I know it sounds funny, but it is. You can't get kids to come to girls basketball games. Only the older people do. And I've had many people say, and even you go back to John Wooden, that the girls' game is the purest form of the game. There's no the dunking and all that stuff. It's all about fundamentals. And even at Benton Central, we had amazing crowds. But even at Benton Central, we would have to win 10 ball games before we'd get the kids start coming and everybody start coming. We'd have to win. We'd have to be 10-0 or something to get them all there. And you look at Purdue. Look at Purdue's crowd. Sharon can't get a paint crew. And they've tried. They've tried everything to lure the people in. But girls go and watch boys play. Boys go and watch boys play. But they don't come watch girls play too often. And but boy, I tell you what, we got quite the crowds around here with just the older people. And at Benton Central, it was amazing. I remember going to the state finals in Market Square Arena and looking up, and one entire quarter of that arena was green and gold. And, they often kidded about, boy, if you want to steal something, go to Benton County, because there ain't anybody there. And, boy, that was the truth, But to give you some examples of what it was like to coach at Benton Central. First time a team, we went to the semi-state, we had a blizzard. And this was in 1978. We had a blizzard. If you remember, 78, we had a terrible blizzard. We were out of school for, 2.5 weeks, something like that. But it was a semi-state. And so what the county got together, the county emergency people, snowmobiles. You didn't have too many four-wheel drives back then. But they went and got the kids from their houses and brought them to Otterburn. They stayed at my mom and dad's house in Otterburn, which is a block from the elementary. And we literally fed them 3 meals a day, and we practiced 3 times a day. And, we did that. And we actually, in the 16 or 14, whatever years I was there, we did that like 4 or 5 times. Where sectional or regional or whatever, semi-state, we had to do that. The 2 years that we went to the semi-state and didn't have to do that, we went to the state finals. But, do you remember when we had I think it was President Carter, we had to shut the lights off? We had to practice for the semi-state with one bank of lights on in the gym for a week. One bank of lights. And we made everybody that came to practice at Benton Central do that too. But, it was really funny because to give you a story, I remember that the year that we were in the semi-state and Warsaw and East Chicago Roosevelt and I believe Rochester might have been in it. And we were playing, and I remember this like yesterday. Marion Crawley came walking in the gym to the girls' semi-state. And he sat behind the scorer's table, and watched the games. And he came up and introduced himself afterwards. And I said, well, I know who you are. Everybody knows who you are. But I remember going to my dad and saying, boy, wow, Marion Crawley came to me. And he said, oh, don't, he said, the semi-state will be played at Jeff from now on. And it was. Wow. We lost the semi-state.
Well, then we mentioned off camera, I had forgotten, but you spent those years at Benton Central, and then you said you went to college coaching, and then end up coming back to Martinsville and coached. Can you tell us a little bit about the differences? Obviously, trying to get people to come to that school, but just the overall philosophy of coaching college compared to high school, Jan.
Well, it's really different. You spend 99, and that was a Division II. I was at Northeast Missouri. It's now called Truman State. I didn't really want to go to college coaching. It was one of those things where, we wouldn't have been in the state finals, and I'd spoke at a coaching class at Indiana State, and it said, I'm thinking about college. I'd had some other offers up to that point, but it was no place I really wanted to go. And I got a call from the AD out there at Northeast Missouri who had graduated from Indiana State and said, I heard you might be interested in college coaching. This was in October. I mean, we were 1 week away from practice starting. And I said, well, I might, but I said, and she said, well, our coach just quit. We need a coach. I said, well, I'm not interested. I got Christy Smith coming back. And she said, well, just come look at it. So I went out and I looked at it and came back. I thought about it, and she said, well, how much would it take to get you here? And I gave her a price, and she said, okay. And then I was mad because I didn't say more, but anyway, my principal at that time was Mike Sipe, and when I talked to him, he said, well, you know what, you're going to hate this if you don't do this and don't try it. He said, let's give you a year's leave of absence and go try it. If you don't like it, come back. Well, I didn't like it, and my brother had taken over the Lady Bison for me, but a guy in a paper out there at Northeast wrote an article about whether or not I would come back or not because of, he knew the story. And he said, does Coach Connor have guts enough? Because we had been 3-24 that year with these other people, And so, boy, do I have guts enough to hold? Yeah, sure I do. So I came to Indiana. I got 5 recruits. We had a whole bunch of kids quit because they couldn't stand the work ethic, how much work I made them do. And we started out the next year with 10 players. Now, here's the difference between high school and college. People don't understand all the time. In high school, we have 20 games of practice. These are practice games. Everybody starts a sectional 0-0. And these are all practice games. In college, one loss can keep you from being in the tournament. And, I mean, every game is so important. And you have to prepare, and I mean, it's unbelievable. And there's so many distractions on a college campus. But the good thing is you're paying them to play. I own them. I own you. And if I want you here, you're going to be here, and a little different from high school. But I want to tell you what, I learned more basketball in those 3 years that I coached. And I probably would have gone longer, but my dad passed away in there. And I just felt like I needed to be back here closer to my mom and, be able to take care of stuff like that. And I missed the high school game. But I learned, we were so bad that first year, Lou, that I was looking for plays to get one bucket. One basket. But that next year with 10 freshmen, and that was a trip in itself, having 10 freshman girls. Oh, the tears and the homesickness and the missing the boyfriends and it was awful. But we won 10 ball games. And then the next year, we won 12 ball games, but we were getting there. We were getting there. But I learned more basketball in those 3 years than I knew prior to that point. And I saw some really great coaches who went on to be Division I coaches, but I coached against them. And I saw some things and when I took the job at Martinsville, I came back here to take care of my mom, and I was taking care of my mom. Benton Central had already hired Sharon Versup, and Martinsville called and said, we need a coach. And, I called around, and they said, I think they're going to be pretty good. I think, they got a core of kids there, AAU and stuff, and it's pretty good kids. And so that's, I went to Martinsville. But what I learned in those 3 years that I took to Martinsville, man, people didn't have a chance. I mean, the things that we could do. But I had I had the greatest point guard in Kristen Bodine at Martinsville. She was unbelievable. She could do it all, and such a leader. And she just took control of that team, And I had one of the boys here. You'll love this. One of the boys here at Jeff the other day that I have in class plays on the varsity. And he said, Coach, he said, you won state championships in basketball. And I said, yeah. He said, how'd you get your kids to want to win the state? How'd you do that?
Great question.
Yeah. And I said, why are you asking me? And he said, because I don't think we want to win. He said, I don't think anybody wants to win big. They're only worried about their points and stuff. And I said, that's got to go, that attitude. And I said, you know what? It took one kid. And I said, one kid started talking to the others about what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get there. This is what we're going to do. And she worked as hard as she could and talked about it and dreamed with them about it. And I said, she got another one to believe. And then they got another one to believe. And then they got another one. And I said, it just exploded. And I said, our practices were better than games. They were. That's what people. And I said, these kids knew basketball so well, and they studied the game. I could call timeout and drop a play they'd never seen ever in their lives, and they could go out and run it first time, get a bucket.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about when you were at Martinsville. Obviously, you won the last year of classes, and then you also won the first year of classes.
Yeah. We won the
And at last single class. And I know everybody's got an opinion about class basketball, but when you went into that year of classes, it really didn't make any difference to you. You were coming off a state championship. Did you feel like, hey, this team I think I've got a chance to win again?
Well, to give you an example of the difference between the single class, the team that was in the state finals the year before, Columbus East, we had to play them in the sectional. There's the difference in single class and class. And that's why the 4A schools don't like it. We're playing the teams in the sectional that we would have met in the state finals. Because we were playing, at Martinsville, we were playing Eminence and, but they were good at that time. But, I mean, in the single class. But you know what the girls did? Not too many people know this. The girls' basketball committee for the IHSA, they got together when word of class basketball first started making its way out there. The committee got together and said, hey, let's see if we can hold this off from coming by let's make our sectionals more competitive with each other. And so they tried to keep the bigger schools together, and I thought it worked pretty good. I mean, our sectional at Martinsville was, Bloomington South and Bloomington North and Columbus East, and we had East Central. Of course, East Central's over there nowhere. There was no place for them to go that was close. And so they sent them clear over to us, and they didn't like that. But there were 6 3-4A schools. And that way, the Eminences and the Monrovias and the Indian Creeks and people like that didn't have to come and play the big schools in the sectional. Now, they did in the regional, but we at least kept the sectionals. And we thought that the boys would see that worked and go to that, but they didn't. And consequently, we went to class sports.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, kind of wrap this up a little bit, but what capacity you're doing with the Hall of Fame. Obviously, you're in the Hall of Fame, but congratulations on that. Well-deserved. But what are you doing as the Hall of Fame for on the women's side?
Well, when you work for the Hall of Fame, you are it's a year-long deal. We have to decide. There's the Silver Anniversary Team, which is the 25-year players, and we try to find some of those players that maybe didn't make the Indiana All-Star team. Kind of got missed, a little bit, but we honor them, and usually we honor 16 to 18 of those. And then we have, of course, the inductees, and those are people that have been out, coaching or playing players for 25 years. Then we honor a couple of referees each year, and then we honor the state championship team from 25 years ago. and we honor any undefeated teams or anything like that. But we have to find these people. Do you know how hard it is to find a woman who has married and changed her name? This is really hard. And then we have to hunt down at statistics. And, what we found out is that, years ago, people didn't keep stats for girls. We have a hard time. And, of course, you and I have talked about this many times. I do the films, try to get films on everybody. That's hard to do. But it's a process all year long of where we nominate, we then choose who gets in. Then the hard part of finding them, getting them there. But my main thing is I'm in charge of the banquet, putting on the banquet in April. It's the last Saturday in April. And just making sure that everybody's there and films are all made and introductions are all ready. And that's my main thing is I just put on the banquet. And it's really great. People don't understand that the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame is the only high school basketball Hall of Fame building in the country. Many of them have Hall of Fames, but they're just in name. We have a building with memorabilia that is amazing. And if you haven't been to Newcastle and you haven't seen this, you need to get there. Because, I literally, I go there, 2 or 3 times, 4 times a year to meetings and stuff. I still could spend all day long looking at all this stuff and remembering all those things and my uncle's coaching and everybody. It's just a neat place.
Yeah, I could spend all day there with you too, Jan. Well, in summary here, I don't know where this could be a hard question, but in all of your coaching experience and your wins and losses, and do you have a high point? Obviously the state finals, but some other coaches sometimes may have some things like, hey, I finally got this kid to hit a layup, or, it's just an example. But do you have a moment in time where you really, really stands out in all your coaching career and the teams you've coached and the kids you've coached?
Oh, there are so many. I just can't even begin to tell you. Every year there's something. There's something that is really neat. I think kids getting scholarships that wouldn't have gone to college without the basketball, that to me was far greater than any win. But everybody always says winning the state championship. Being in the state finals against Tom May, with him and I on that court, with the battles we had here at Jeff Gym all those years, that is a big highlight. But nothing takes the place of standing at Market Square Arena, coming out of the tunnel to those Benton Central fans, which we still hold the record for the most tickets ever sold by one school. And the thunder, the floor actually there trembled when they stood up and started cheering for us. And, I turned around and I looked at my kids, and, they couldn't get their breath. It was one of those, moments. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was the most amazing moment to look up in the stands and see all those people. And, I could go on and on about all the different things, but to me, that one moment was the culmination of Dick Atha's hard work, all of our coaches and stuff, but the kids, but that county came together. Those girls were gods.
Well, last thing, how's Mom doing?
Well, 2 women in the same house just drive each other crazy. She's doing fine.
Good. Well, good health to her. Jan, I really appreciate the time. Thanks a lot, and best of luck in the future. This is Sweet Lou, Jeff Luzzatto, another segment of the Lafayette Living Legends. So long, everyone.